Alright guys, welcome to the Mr. Sinister Q&A. Couple things before we get started. First off, the mic's going to sound a little weird because I got the fan going in my room because it gets fucking hot. So yeah, the mic's going to be on here. The mic's going to sound a little weird when I do these Q&A. Sorry about that, but anyway, what can you do? Anyway, also the other two things is... I want to thank everyone who sent in questions, but if I did not answer someone's question, that usually means that it was either marked as spam or didn't show up at all on the list, so I do apologize for that. And yeah, so sorry about that. Anyway, let's get started with Jackie Lee, who asks, besides the X-Men, which other hero would he be a villain to? Well, in the X-Men Spider-Man story by Christos Gage, he was an enemy to Spider-Man, trying to harvest in a decades-long mission to quintessentially harvest Kraven's DNA as well as the original 5 X-Men and make a new enemy called Zraven. But if anything, I think it would be cool. And honestly, it's actually kind of fun because in there, it really does hint at, and something that I've always suspected, that Mr. Sinister had a hand in the Clone Saga. Obviously, it's very much hinted that Mr. Sinister and the Jackal worked together secretly on some of the project. So it always makes sense to me that if the Jackal's going to go to anyone for help for cloning, yeah, it would make sense that Sinister had a hand in the Clone Saga. I mean, that just makes sense, right? So Spider-Man's one. Captain America would be an interesting villain. I mean, I'm just going by Marvel villains here. Anyway. So a few of those people. Yeah, there you go. Thank you for those questions, Thank you for that question, Jackie Lee. Moving on now to Cash Smith, who asks, why is he your favorite Marvel villain? Well, I wouldn't say he's my favorite Marvel villain. That title goes to Ultron. Ultron is my favorite Marvel villain. But Sinister is definitely up there as one of my favorite Marvel villains. He's definitely a favorite of mine because he lives up to his title, first off, and he's so sophisticated, and he's just like, he always feels like he's one step ahead of the X-Men. Like, no matter what happens, he's always going to come back, and it's always going to be bad for everybody around him. He's always going to be this piece of shit who's going to come back as this British dandy who can clone people, and yeah. He's just I've always considered him to be one of Marvel's greatest villains, and one of comic books' greatest villains. I mean, the dude did a lot. Anyway, second question. Who do you think is his closest DC counterpart? I've never really known any of the DC characters to be major cloners, so I can't really say that he's never really had a DC counterpart per se. So I can't really think of one. If anyone else can, that's great. Third question. If he was reimagined as an anime villain, what anime would he work best in? If he was a villain in anime, who would he be a villain to? That is a good question. Maybe, if anyone's seen the anime Rin, Daughters of Monosume, it's a really adult anime, but it's also a really fucking awesome anime that involves, immortal women and men who turn into monsters, and it's a really fucking cool show. It's a really fucking cool anime. It's 6 things long, and it's really awesome. Go check it out. It's completely amazing. Anyway, where was I going with this? Where the hell was I going with this? Anyway, Rin, I think Mr. Sinister would be cool as an enemy of Rin. I think that would be a lot of fun. Yeah. Yeah, that would be good. So, oh yeah, that was your third question. So thank you for those questions, Cash. Moving on now to Andrew Varney, who asks, if Sinister ends up in the world of Undertale, how does he react to the following characters? Flowey, Sans, Papyrus, Undyne, Metaton, Alphys, and Temez. I think he would just kill all of them because he wouldn't see any... aside from Undyne, I think he wouldn't find any genetic... he wouldn't find any genetic interest in any of them. That's the main thing he goes with, is cloning and evolving. So I think outside of Undyne, who actually would have proper DNA, Alphys, he may take some of her research, but I think he'd find Alphys as an idiot. but he would steal her research to add to his own for, for how to work, for merging souls with, new life, hence Flowey and, Azrael. But still, I think the only one he'd have major interest in is maybe Alpha's research in Undyne. Anyway, second question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how screwed are the following universes Mr. Sinister invaded them? MLP, Danville, Townsville, Westeros, Eternia, Angel Grove, or the park from regular show. All of them would be collectively screwed. Could you imagine, him getting his hands on, Sinister getting his hands on the Powerpuff Girls DNA? It didn't there was an episode where it had cheap knockoff clones, but still, he could probably do better. Anyway. Third question. So Mr. Sinister is invited to a villain poker night, joined by Yellow Diamond, Skeletor, Jack Spicer, Eggman, Dr. Wily, Draken, Doofenshmirtz, Megatron, Frieza, and Black Goku, and forgets to bring the nachos. How much damage are we looking at? I swear to God, Andrew, you usually just put Skeletor in here just so I can do the voice. Well, here you go. Sinister has not brought the nachos. Curse you, Sinister. This is worse than He-Man. I swear to God, people just put 80s Skeletor on here just so they want me to hear just so they can hear the 80s Skeletor voice. I swear to God, you people are evil. Oh man. Anyway, but no, yeah, there'd be some problems. There would be some problems. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Andrew Varney. Anyway, so Dubs the Devil. I hope I'm saying that name right. I apologize. In what comic universe did Sinister state that Gambit was a Summers clone made by him as a replacement body? I read that in the library and have never found the story since it was in the main universe. You see, that was kind of the original idea that Christos Gage had. Not Christos Gage. Oh God, what's his name? What's his name? I can't. Why did I forget the name of the most famous one of the most famous X-Men writer of all time? What the fuck is wrong with me? Damn it. Why am I forgetting his name? No. Oh man, it's killing me now. Why did I suddenly God. You see, now it's starting to piss me off because I should know this. And I should remember this, but Chris Claremont. Oh my God, how did I forget that name? I knew it was Chris, but I don't know how it happens. I just have these big brain farts, and I'm stuck on them. I'm so sorry, guys. I should know that it's Chris Claremont. Oh my God, I should have remembered it was the name was Chris Claremont. Chris Claremont. Yeah. But yeah, bottom line, Claremont did want, originally, from what I understand, Claremont wanted that to be the idea that Gambit was a clone of Summers, but then Marvel told him, nah, let's do his own thing. So that was so they just kind of hinted at it from there. Anyway, so sorry for that hold-up, Dubs, but yeah. Chris Claremont, what the fuck is wrong with me? How did I not remember that name? The fuck is wrong with me? Anyway, so moving right along to Jason Voorhees 2011, who asks, who would be your casting pick for Sinister if you have one? Oh, I do have one, Jason. I do in fact have one for Mr. Sinister. That person is none other than, drumroll please, Jeremy Irons. I've always thought that Jeremy Irons would be so cool. I know a lot of people want Jason Isaacs or Bryan Cranston, and they would be really good too. I think those would be really good picks as well. Me personally, I think Jeremy Irons just because here's the thing. You want here's a lot of thing. Even in the animated series, a lot of people seem to forget about Sinister. he's British. And I'm not saying, oh, all British people should be villains, but yeah, that's kind of his Sinister. That's his nationality. He's British, and even they had Clancy Brown and Wolverine and the X-Men, which that was cool, but still, I was kind of hoping for a British accent. And let me say that it's not just because he's I want some of the nationality for that. Jeremy Irons is so good as a villain, unless you're counting that Dungeons and Dragons movie, but that actually, I think he was just having fun with that one. But the main reason why I think Jeremy Irons would make an excellent Mr. Sinister is because of how dark and sinister he can be. He can play this cold and calculating character. And honestly, I could imagine his voice coming out of Sinister's mouth. He can be this, violent, this cold and calculating villain who doesn't need to punch anyone. The one thing that it may be a little difficult is Jeremy Irons putting on that costume. But then again, someone did make a suggestion of maybe instead of doing the full-on original Sinister costume, how about they just use the new costume, like the Victorian era costume? I was like, yeah, that would be cool. I'd be okay with the new Sinister costume where it's more Victorian era. He's got the top hat and cane. I'm more of a sucker for the original costume, but I could, for movie purposes, I could go with the Victorian era costume. As long as it's not Ultimate Universe Sinister, I'm totally fucking fine with it. But yeah, Victorian era costume, I could see that. I could see Jeremy Irons in there. He's just he makes such a great villain. He's such a fantastic actor. I think he can honestly he could honestly play Sinister down to a T, honestly. But no, Jason Isaacs and Bryan Cranston would also be really good. But in my heart, I've always had that Jeremy Irons would make just a fantastic Mr. Sinister. Anyway, second question. Which DC heroes could you see Mr. Sinister being a villain to? Superman. I think he would be a cool villain for him studying Kryptonian DNA. I think he would also be cool as a villain for Blue Beetle. I don't want to say Batman, because I think he's a little too out there for Batman. Wonder Woman, I think he would be a great villain for Wonder Woman. Him harvesting Amazonian DNA. The Doom Patrol. Oh, yeah, he'd be a perfect villain for the Doom Patrol. And, maybe just a Justice League villain on a whole. Anyway, so thank you for that question. Your third question is, what are some of your favorite stories that utilize Sinister besides Mutant Massacre? Christos Gage's X-Men Spider-Man story. Well, Spider-Man and the or is it X-Men and Spider-Man? Whatever, it's X-Men and Spider-Man. I really do enjoy Inferno. I really like Inferno, which is the story with him manipulating Madeline Pryor, the clone of Jean Grey, into quintessentially becoming the Goblin Queen, and it's all this demon shit. It's really cool. Other stories that involve Sinister, what's another good one? Another good Sinister story is actually from the X-Men Wildcats crossover called Golden Age, which involves Grifter and Jean Grey meeting, and they run into Sinister. Although it does kind of mess with the continuity, because how would they, it's Grifter teaming up with the first 5 X-Men, and they encounter Sinister, and I have the comic, but I forget how it ends. Anyway. But no, those are just to name a few. Executioner's Song is also pretty good. Yeah, there's some really good stories. Just to name a few, but there's a ton. Anyway, so thank you for those questions, Jason. Moving on now to Linerman0245, who asks, Mr. Sinister, in the world of Digimon and Pokemon, who would be his partner and test subject? You see, Digimon, I don't think would interest him because that's all data. There's no real DNA there. It's all data. Pokemon, they're just animals to him. But if I was to pick one, maybe, I don't know, a psychic-type Pokemon like Alakazam? Maybe, I don't know. If Mr. Sinister was a high school teacher, how scary would his science classes truly be? Well, you wouldn't be dissecting frogs, that's for fucking sure. Third question. Mordecai and Rigby, along with Patrick, would work under Mr. Sinister. How much does Mr. Sinister need to drink when dealing with them? Probably 4 barrels of rum a day. Alright. Moving on now to Nicholas Harley, who asks, who is Mr. Sinister? Mr. Sinister is an X-Men villain who is a mutant who was born in the 1800s. He was studying under... Well, it jumps around in some continuities. They say, in one case, they say he was a colleague of Charles Darwin, and in other cases, they say that he was who Darwin based himself on. But long story short, he encountered Apocalypse. Apocalypse genetically manufactured him, even though he was manifesting his mutant abilities. And from there, Sinister went on from the shadows, collecting mutant DNA and looking to create the perfect genetic mutant and he believed that the Summers, Scott Summers and this whole Summers family was the perfect object for creating the perfect mutant race that he could control. So there you go. Second question: Mr. Sinister finds Jasper from the Steven universe after the Malachite thing. What do you think he'll do with her? Toss her aside because there'd be nothing there for him to real DNA for him to harvest. Third question: so Mr. Sinister meets Rick, Yamcha, Bill Cipher, Steven, and Connie. What happens? I think he would harvest DNA from Steven and... well, the thing is, he's not really interested in magic. He doesn't believe in it. So maybe Yamcha... Maybe, but I think he would find him too inferior. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Nicholas. Moving on now to Christian Sager, who asks, Mr. Sinister, Orochimaru, Mayuri, I can't pronounce that last name, fuck it. And Dr. Krieger from Archer and Dr. Isano all team up at a mad scientist convention. What happens? They all trade notes and try to say who outcloned who. Whose idea was it to design Mr. Sinister as a buffed-up cross between David Bowie and The Crow? You can thank Chris Claremont for that. Apparently, word on the street is that Claremont's a big David Bowie fan, and he was a lot of the inspiration facially for Sinister was Bowie. Hence why he kind of has that Ziggy Stardust shit going on. Anyway... But no, I really like it. But no, you can thank Chris Claremont for that. He wanted to do something straight out of a David Bowie imagination. And I'm pretty sure, that's another actor. I know David Bowie was a musician, but he also did a lot of acting. I think it would have been cool in his younger years, say, Labyrinth, if X-Men came out in the 80s, early 90s. Man, David Bowie would be an awesome Mr. Sinister. You're thinking about that shit right now, aren't you? You're sitting there going... Shit, David Bowie would be an awesome Mr. Sinister. Yeah, and we'd all look at the sinister serpent in his pants. Oh, man. Yeah, that's it. That's the real monster. Oh, man. Anyway. Thank you for those questions, Christian Sager. Moving on now to Malingar, who asks, what is your opinion on how Sinister was portrayed in the Deadpool game? If you didn't like it, how would you have changed it? I was just kind of on it. I mean, it was cool to see Sinister as the major villain. Same time, I was kind of like, Second question, would Sinister make a good Doctor Who villain? Yeah, I think he would. I don't know how I would pitch him to the BBC, but maybe he's trying to clone Time Lord DNA so he can harvest it and make, create maybe a better Doctor or a more, I don't know. He would try to, maybe he's trying to bring back the Time Lord so he can learn time. Well, the Time Lord's already back. I don't know. I don't know how I would pitch that. Third question. Popular opinion seems to be that Sinister will be the antagonist in the Old Man Logan movie, but couldn't he also, or instead, be the villain for Deadpool 2, considering Cable's inclusion in the movie? Well, here's the thing. It does look like, yes, that he will be the main villain in Old Man Logan. That probably is going to be the given. But here's the thing. Simon Kinberg stated that Sinister is going to play a huge part from here on out to the X-Men movies, as he should. I was really worried because, Sinister and Wolverine, Sinister's an X-Men villain, but if anything, as I've said before, he's more of an enemy to Scott Summers. He's more of an enemy to Cyclops, because he's done so much. He created Madeline Pryor, which in turn created Cable. So, yeah, Sinister is a big fucking deal in the X-Men universe, right next to Apocalypse and Magneto. Magneto, Apocalypse, and Sinister are like the trinity of X-Men villains. So that's kind of the big thing we're looking at here right now, is that I don't want Sinister to be killed off, and I don't think it is going to be a thing. But yeah, I think it would, Sinister might be around for a while. He may show up in Old Man Logan, but I think in the Old Man Logan movie, but I think it would be really cool to keep him alive, because yeah, even if they do kill him off, Sinister could have another clone or put his consciousness in another body. It's been done before. Sinister has always cheated death. So, anyway, there you go. So think of those questions, Malingar. Moving on now to Alexander Anayas, who asks, what makes Mr. Sinister so sinister? The dude watched his children die and experimented on them after they died. He also created a clone just, to have, for Cyclops to boink her and have a baby with her, so he could create the master mutant race. Oh, let's also not forget that he, more or less he kind of had a hand in some cases, that he had a hand in helping to drive Jean Grey insane. He also would, as a revenge plot, it's kind of hinted that he made Jean Baron. Yeah, he did that he did that because he was like, I had Pryor. The fuck do I need you? So he kind of made it so she wouldn't have children, even though, yeah, they had Rachel Summers together. But after that, it's kind of hinted that, she can't have kids anymore. So yeah, he does kind of earn that moniker of Sinister. If Mr. Sinister managed to succeed in his plans, what kind of destructive AU are we looking at? Very, like Emperor Cable or something like that. That's how I've kind of seen it. Which characters outside of comics for Mr. Sinister would work for Mr. Sinister's his new team Marauders? Oh, a non-comic Marauders team, I see. So, who would be on Mr. Sinister's team? Who would be on the Mr. Sinister team? That is a toughie. That is a tough one. I would have to say for Mr. Sinister, who should be who should be on his team? Shigo from Kim Possible, Tom from Star vs. the Forces of Evil. I would even say, maybe the evil Morty from Rick and Morty. Damn, this is harder than I thought. Maybe the shapeshifter from Gravity Falls. There you go. Just to name a few. Anyway, third question. What? Oh, that was your third question. All right, thank you for those questions, Alex. Moving on now to Darth Nerdum, who asks, what would Mr. Sinister think of Shockwave and real-life scientist Joseph? I really don't feel comfortable doing these real-life people, Nerdum. I gotta say, I've never really felt comfortable around that. Sorry, yeah. But I could say that Shockwave, I think he would be interested, but at the same time, he'd be like, a robot can't do what a real scientist can do. Anyway, so yeah, I'm sorry I'm not going to answer the other one. I don't feel comfortable bringing in these real-life people in here. It's never really jived with me, so sorry. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Jesse. Thank you for those questions, Nerdum. Moving on now to Jesse Sutres, who asks, question 1. How would you write a story where Mr. Sinister battled the Inhuman royal family in order to obtain the Terrigen Mist? Maybe have it that he breaks into Atalan. Is Atalan still around? I can't fucking remember. But yeah, he breaks into Atalan and steals a small sample of the Terrigen Mist to take back with him and study. That's all I got. Sorry, I had to get some water. Second question. Would you hope that comic-accurate Mr. Sinister will make a surprise appearance in the X-Men Apocalypse, or How It Should Have Ended video? Well, he did kind of appear, didn't he? I mean, yeah, he's now in charge of a corporation in this movie universe, but yeah, he did kind of show. He didn't really show up. He was just mentioned as a presence. All right. What is your favorite Mr. Sinister-based storyline in comics or animation? We're out at Mutant Massacres for me, but animation-wise, probably his first appearance where he's in the Shadowland in the '90s cartoon. He was just he's so different from anything you've seen in the show so far, and he was just so conniving and calculative, All right, moving on. Thank you for those questions, Jesse. Moving on now to Shockwave Spider, who asks, which of the Essex Corporation creations is your favorite? None, because we don't know what they've made yet. Yeah, the Essex Corporation is a movie thing. They haven't appeared yet they're not good. I doubt they'll be in the comics, but yeah, that's solely a movie thing, and it just appeared in this film alone, so yeah. Can't really answer that one because we don't know what they made. Second question. Danny Phantom versus Mr. Sinister. Who wins? Danny Phantom would be also a good villain for Mr. Sinister, a good enemy for Mr. Sinister. I would have to say that maybe Sinister because he actually can attack psychically as well. Third question. How do you feel about Mr. Sinister being in the Deadpool video game? I already answered this one. So thank you for this question, Shockwave Spider. Moving on now to Frau001. Hope I'm saying that name right. I apologize. First question. What is Mr. Sinister's end goal, really? Sometimes he wants to create a mutant to destroy Apocalypse, but when the goal what goal over then? Why does it also seem like he can't create some kind of Venom symbiote to do the job for him? He did kind of harvest Carnage's DNA in the X-Men Spider-Man story to add to his Zaven clone, but that turned against him. I would say his end goal is to create the master, a mighty, a master mutant society from genetically perfect people, and starting with that was the Summers. That's the goal I've always kind of rolled with. Second question. In the comic, Apocalypse turns Dr. Essex into Mr. Sinister. In the animated series, he turns himself into Mr. Sinister using serums to create experiments on mutants. I kind of like this background a bit more because it makes him more menacing. I mean, the guy has been an immortal since the 19th century and didn't need Apocalypse. What's your opinion? I kind of like the Apocalypse one because, yeah, it does kind of tie him in with Apocalypse, and, yeah, it does show that he was a mutant the whole time rather than just a human. Alright, third question. Why did Mr. Sinister cause the mutant massacre? Looking back at the story arc, I never got why he did it. I mean, there's a massive society of potential future guinea pigs, and he orders their destruction. Why? Mostly because, as I recall, and not really recall, yeah, I've read the story, mostly because the Morlocks to him were genetically imperfect. The Morlocks to him were nothing. They were just nothing but genetic waste. They weren't even worthy to be guinea pigs or test subjects. He was trying to do a genetic cleansing and had the Marauders just more or less butcher them so they wouldn't be, they wouldn't dilute his what he considered a perfect mutant bloodline. So that's the real reason why that's the more reason why he had the Marauders slaughter them all. So there you go. That's how that was kind of the big thing. But no, I can understand, why didn't he use them as guinea pigs? Who can say, that's a good point, but still, he just, in his mind, they weren't worthy enough for it. Anyway, so thank you for those questions. Moving on now to Andre Partridge, who asks, what will happen if Mr. Sinister met up with the Major and the members of Millennium? Oh, they would love to have him on. I think he would be interested. And here's the thing: the big thing with Sinister is that he's always considered looking for new genetic subjects. And it's actually even though I said earlier he's not really interested in the supernatural, he did for a short time try to clone Loki, but it failed miserably for him. So maybe he wouldn't really do that. I don't think he would go for it again. But yeah. He wasn't really interested in he wasn't even, now that I think about it, it wasn't a supernatural. He just thought Loki was a higher level being, like some alien, not a magical creature. So that's why he never really worked for him. But I think it would be interesting to see him work on vampires and see the work they're doing. So maybe he would be interested. Rick and Morty accidentally travel into one of Mr. Sinister's laboratories. What happens? Sinister gets really interested in the multiverse theory and takes some DNA from Rick. What kind of music do you think Mr. Sinister listens to when he's not busy being evil? I remember reading a comic once where he said that he was a fan of Sebastian Bach, which I can actually believe. So yeah, not the lead singer of not Motley Crue, Skid Row, not that guy, not that Bach, but the composer Sebastian Bach, that guy. So yeah, I could imagine him listening to that. Also, Chopin, a lot of classical music. Not no guitars or anything, just a lot of classical, like Mozart and whatnot. So there you go. Thank you for those questions, Andre. Moving on now to One of None, who asks, Mr. Sinister teams up with Hawkmoth and Shat. Are Shat and Ladybug screwed? Yes, they are. If Mr. Sinister was a pony in MLP, would he try to turn Discord back evil or work with Chrysalis? Probably Chrysalis. He wouldn't bother with, Discord. But yeah, definitely maybe collaborate with Chrysalis. Mr. Sinister finds Dragon Ball. Are we fucked? If he collects the other 6, then we would be. Anyway, moving on now to... thank you for those questions, One of None. Moving on now to King Nazaru, who asks, well, if Mr. Sinister met Geralt, do you think he would want to study Witcher mutation? See, I've never really played a lot of the Witcher games, so I can't really answer this one, but maybe. Second question, Mr. Sinister knew about Digimon. Which one would he harness Digivolution? Again, that's really more data, and you can't really harvest data to clone. You can't really do that. He's more about physical work, not all this ones and zeros. Third question. Since Jason X said Jason comes back to life due to... let me start over. Since Jason X said Jason comes back to life all the time due to it being a mutant with a healing factor, would Mr. Sinister risk claiming Jason's immortal DNA? Well, the main thing, it was stated in Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash that he's not really a mutant, he's a Deadite. Jason's a supernatural being. But I think Mr. Sinister, had he heard about Jason, I think he would be interested in thinking it's a mutant DNA and try to clone it, but probably have as much luck as he did trying to clone Loki's DNA, thereby saying, didn't turn out too well. So think of those questions, King Nazaru. Moving on now to 25 Kid, who asks, what would Sinister think of the Joker, or better put, the Jokers? He wouldn't have anything to do with them. What would Sinister think of the Ninja Turtles? Interesting, but not enough to want to clone them. How would Sinister work against Lord Zed and Rita? He wouldn't work with any of them. I doubt he would waste his time with any of them. So think of those questions, 25 Kid. Sorry to get some water. Moving right along to Blackfire Productions, who asks, what do you think of Bryan Cranston wanting to play Mr. Sinister? I've heard of that, and I think it would be cool. I think he would be interesting. I'm more inclined to have Jeremy Irons as Mr. Sinister, but I would totally be fine. Yeah, I'd be really fine with Bryan Cranston wanting to play him, even though I would prefer to have a traditional British actor play him. But again, you can't go wrong with Bryan Cranston, am I right? What is your favorite Mr. Sinister moment? Probably one of my favorite moments is when, in the animated series, when Morph tries to turn against Sinister, he shoots him, and the bullet goes right through Sinister's side, and it just heals instantly, and he goes, I should have let you die. Like, he's not even offended. Well, he's more offended than he was shocked. He's just like, really, bitch? I do this for you, and, fuck you. Third question. What would be your idea for an X-Men film with Sinister as the central antagonist, in or out of continuity with the other X-Men movies? I would like to do an adaptation of Mutant Massacre, honestly. I think that would be the best route to go. So think of those questions, Blackfire Productions. Moving on now to RoboKaiju75, who asks, In the Fox Kids X-Men series, what was your reaction when you first saw Cyclops blast a hole in Sinister's torso? Yeah, that was pretty ballsy. You know, that was a moment that made you go Scott. But no, Sinister's come back from a lot worse in the comics. Second question, can you recommend some good comics featuring Mr. Sinister in them? Mutant Massacre, X-Men, Spider-Man, X-Men, trying to think of a few. Executioner songs, alright. Those to name a few. Also, there's a pretty good one during the AVX event in an Uncanny X-Men where the Phoenix Five lay siege to Sinister's stronghold, and it's a really cool story. Third question: what would Mr. Sinister think of the Shredder? An interesting physical specimen. Maybe want some DNA from him. So, think of those questions, Robo Kaiju. Moving on now to Media Detective, who asks, do you think Mr. Sinister in the movies will be a big recurring villain and cause Jean becoming Dark Phoenix? I would like to think so. I hope that's the case. Don't kill him off. Did you like what Cartoon Wolverine and the X-Men did with Mr. Sinister? I really liked him. I really enjoyed, as much as I've, I'd prefer a British voice actor, but still, Clancy Brown gave him this cold and smooth kind of voice, and I really enjoyed, I really liked him. I really liked what Wolverine and the X-Men did with him. Third question. One more thing. I love when when Cyclops is convinced Sinister has Jean's body, and Sinister's like, you just come in here thinking that I'm some kind of common supervillain? Fuck you! Alright. What's a more dangerous team-up? Mr. Sinister and Hugo Strange or Mr. Sinister and Jasper? Probably Sinister and Strange, because Sinister would be more or less manipulating Jasper. With Hugo Strange, they would both be easily collaborating. So, thank you for those questions, Media Detective. Moving on now to Cole Barker, who asked, who is Mr. Sinister? Again, I already answered this question, Cole, so sorry. I already gave the answer earlier, so sorry. So, final set of questions come from Creed Lavari, who asks, who would Mr. Sinister make a good villain for? Already answered that question. Sorry, Creed. Second question, what supervillain team would you like Mr. Sinister to join? I think it would be cool to have him outside of X-Men for a while. Have him, on the Masters of Evil. That'd be cool. I would like to see that. Third question. Mr. Sinister gets his hand on Kryptonian DNA. What happens? He probably makes a better Bizarro. Like a more mentally competent, and maybe even stronger Bizarro. That would be something right there. But anyway, that looks like it's all the questions. So, yeah. Once again, I want to thank everyone who sent in questions, and again, I apologize if your questions weren't answered. That was either a fault of it being either spam or it not showing up on the list at all. But again, this was a lot of fun. Really good turnout for this Q&A. Once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.